All right, welcome back. First thing I want to mention is that I'm going to be using these new gloves today, and I just couldn't resist. I know they're a little different. They're not my favorite look, but these were like $1.68, so I got a couple pairs. Now they're leather. It's a little bit thinner than normal, but my other leather gloves that I paid a lot more for have already worn out anyways. They always wear out no matter what, so I figured for $1.60 or whatever they were, under $2, I'd just try some of these. Don't want to hear anything about my gloves. Hopefully they work. But you can see the amount of wood that I have back here. I have collected quite a load, and I have all kinds of splitting to do. So it's time to get on it. And I have that cedar over here. Okay, so here we go. Let's get at this. Starting out, I got a little mixture of wood on my chopping block there. That's red oak that I'm working on, and that's a piece of maple on the top, and that's a big piece of pine underneath it, and like two other types of wood. But I just threw those right there because those were heavy, and as I was passing by with the wheelbarrow, I just went ahead and dropped those off right there so I didn't have to lift them again. So they're already on the chopping block ready to go, and I'm gonna get at them now. And again, here's a perfect example of all the different sizes of wood that I'm getting. That red oak that I'm splitting right now, I don't know what that is. It's 20 inches, maybe 22 inches, but it's a good 4 inches or so longer than 16 inches than it should be. And it's short enough that it'll fit in a fireplace, but it's just long enough to kind of be a pain in the butt too. When you stack that in the pile, it sticks out further than everything else. And then that piece of maple that just fell off that was on the top, it's about 15 inches on the tall side, and it's got a big uneven cut on it. And on the low side, it's like 14, maybe 13 inches on the low side. So it's a shortcut. And when I split that and stack it, then you have all these little short pieces in your wood pile, and it's terrible for stacking. So that's all the kind of stuff that there's nothing I can do about the maple. I brought it home, and it's close to 16 inches, but you can't make them longer once they're already cut. And I brought it home, and it's not the end of the world, but it does make stacking a little bit frustrating. And I just did have a wood pile fall over, so I gotta go back and rearrange or restack or reorganize a face cord of wood and handle it all again. But the red oak that I just split that was 22 inches long, that's an example of something that I just don't want to go back with a chainsaw constantly and make them all perfect. Now, I mean, maybe I should, but the work's already been done for me to get it that close, and then having to use the chainsaw that much more is just kind of a lot of extra work. So on a lot of them, if they're small enough to fit in the fireplace, I am not messing with them. Now, anytime I break out the chainsaw and I have to cut them, I'm going to do 16 inches. I just did a video on how I'm going to start measuring on my wood, and when I have to use the chainsaw, I'll make it 16. This piece right here, I really shouldn't have brought home, and I could tell that it wasn't very heavy when I picked it up, but it was dark outside and it looked like a decent round. However, it's kind of punky, so when I'm done with this piece, I just threw it up on my wood pile, and I think it's pretty much dry. It's been sitting there dead for a long time. It's already all faded and everything, so I split it up and threw it right where it gets direct sun, and I'll probably burn it this year. It's going to bake in the sun for another 4 months, and I'll throw it in sometime this year and burn it and get rid of it. Right here you can see that it's just lost all of its strength, and I hit it in a pretty decent spot to take a shave off of that side, and instead of making a nice long piece of firewood, it just wanted to shard off and break off. That's because it's just kind of punky and it doesn't have any structural strength to hold that whole cut, so it just breaks off and shatters. But thankfully that was really the only bad piece of wood I got. Really, that's one of the only bad pieces of wood like that I brought home all summer. I did also grab a piece of pine when it was dark outside, and that was an accident. There was a big pile of new wood that had been dumped, and it was all mixed up. Here's that piece of pine right now, and this thing is full of knots. I can see 4 right here on this side of the log, and look, when I turn it, there's 2 more. I mean, there's a good 8 or 10 knots in this log going every direction, so it doesn't want to split well. But I just kind of bust it down into manageable pieces. A couple of them are a little bit on the large side, but I'm not going to try to make bundle grade perfect little tiny pieces out of this pine when it's not splitting good. I mean, sometimes it's just so hot right now in the summer. If I get one that's a problem like this and I'm just slaving away, as long as I can get it to where it's split and it'll fit in the fireplace, sometimes I just throw it aside and call it quits on that. And then the next log, I'll make some smaller pieces. When I get one that's splitting nice and easy and making nice, even, pretty splits, I'll split some down a little bit smaller to kind of compensate for it, right? So then I'll have some smaller pieces to throw in around the larger ones. Well, I just want to take a moment to thank everybody for stopping by and watching this. Again, I've emphasized this several times. I know I'm doing a lot of wood splitting right now, and you can see how much more I have to do behind me, and I don't have any plans on stopping in the immediate future. But I really appreciate it. I think I'm going to try to switch up the camera view some. I can see how that wood down in the front of the screen is a little bit washed out looking, and that's just from the glare of the sun. I have been playing with the settings on my editing software, trying to get that glare down, and nothing really works. I mean, it's just not, all the other greens and everything all become crazy, and my skin tone gets all messed up, or it's like black and white. It just, nothing's really working to correct that for me easily. So I think I'm going to experiment with some different camera angles. I might move the camera to in front of me and do some close-ups again. But yeah, I'm going to keep the content. I'm going to try to mix it up whenever I can and keep things interesting. But at the same time, I got a lot of splitting to do. So I'll just try to find new and interesting things to talk about and continue with the splitting and continue with the schedule that I've been on. Thanks again. This maple log right here is another example of one that's just a little bit too long. And I'm just not going to continue to burn gas and dull down chains and spend all that energy making offcuts and cookies and all that stuff I got to deal with every time there's one that's 2 or 3 or 4 inches too long. So I'm just going to have to deal with it however I can and try to get my wood piles as firm as possible to stack right.